LJ, it's going to be a lot of me talking to a child on this one, so sorry in advance. Sorry, not sorry. Welcome to Coach's Corner, where we keep it real, including baby talk. This is our newest coach, LJ. You met him on Saturday. He's pretty good at his job. He doesn't use a lot of words, but he's very descriptive.
He doesn't need to.
He doesn't need to. That's true. That's fair. All right. So, of course, again, welcome to Coach's Corner. This is Coach LJ. I'm Coach L, if you want to go by that, or Coach Linden. We have
Coach W.
I'm Amy.
All right. Soon to be teacher Amy.
Teacher.
Teacher. Well, she's already a teacher, just not in our space yet.
That's true.
The workshop, or let's call it not workshop, but demo class is this weekend.
That's right.
Should be very, very interesting.
I'm excited.
Right? Yeah, we're putting everything up. We got the things up. We got things going. So people are going to be able to sign up literally by noon today. We left it to the last minute because it's a demo. It's not supposed to be something where it's like official, but we knew there were going to be people who maybe weren't part of the thing, who wanted to be part of the thing, wanted to see what you were teaching. So we were officially putting it on the website, giving it space and time, so that way people can sign up.
Yeah.
Yes. So are you excited?
I am.
Yes?
I am. I think, what I've been experiencing right now is like all the stuff that goes with teaching a class around the not teaching part.
Okay, yeah.
Like the
description.
Taking photos, writing a description, and like promoting it. Like I dislike all of those things a lot. So
did
I feel like that's where the discomfort is for me. Like I'm looking forward to the teaching part because that feels like the fun part.
Fair.
It's like this stuff, but that's like where I obviously need to focus some work on, focus my growth on, is like being able to do that stuff.
Is it fair to say, I like to think of it like, because I actually feel the same way. Like I love to teach, but like advertising myself, putting myself on display for others, stuff like that, doesn't really vibe with me. LJ, why don't you go in that back room?
The turnaround.
All right. So I actually get what you mean by that. Now I'm trying to let you roam around. Okay. All right. You want up? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people think it's like very natural for me to do it, but it's actually quite the opposite. None of it is natural to me. And I had to learn like through repetition how to, even taking photos is awkward for me, right? Because people have heard me say stuff like, we didn't take a lot of photos. Like we took photos, but based on how I used to live, I didn't take a lot of photos. Like photos were considered not such great things. So it is actually very difficult for me to do, but I show up weird, and then eventually it just turns into, we're okay with this. Or it becomes something I just get better at. So it passes. The first couple times are rough as shit, for sure. Mm-hmm. You relaxing now? All right. So, if you haven't noticed by cool Coach LJ, we are kind of winding down on the day, and yesterday was the Olympics. Olympics were super fun. I'll get your take on it. Let's just not say mine. What did everybody think about the Olympics?
It was cool. It felt very cohesive, and like coming together. And it also wasn't like arduous. It was more of just like an expression of like, oh yeah, we've come quite a ways. We've got some strong people with crazy endurance, and I don't know. I was just like impressed by everyone. I was like, okay. And the energy was like communal to a point where I felt like even though we didn't do much, we still like expressed a lot, and the people that we were watching like did give us a show. Like
absolutely. So you weren't here for the first one, but me and Amy were. And I ran the first one but didn't participate. Amy participated in both but left early because she had to go teach at I want to, for some reason, I always want to call your place Sankofa, and I know that's not the
Oh,
name.
yeah, it's
Every single time I'm like, at Sand, that's not the name.
Yeah.
But she had to go teach West African dance that morning with, and I'm thinking you were teaching, which is why you had to leave.
Yeah, for Muhammad, I think I was filling in, so
Fair.
I had to kind of get it done.
Yeah, so she came in and like did the thing and left, right? But ironically, we did everything. Like I was like, it'll be 45 minutes, but because of how people move, trying to get people time, it actually ended up being closer to 2 hours, 2.5 hours
Yeah.
for the entire thing. Listen, I'm sore. I was like, I'm gonna be sore, especially if
Yeah.
I'm trying to outdo Garth every time. That was my whole thing,
Yeah.
just outdo Garth. Yes. So I thought it was a good time. In general, the energy was good. But compared to the first, that's what made it interesting. I wondered who was going to be here from the first to the second.
Yeah.
Like who would show up, because some of those members are no longer with us.
Right.
Right? So I was curious if anyone from the first was going to show up for the second.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it was mainly new people.
Yeah.
Yeah? Like
I think
it
I was
wasn't too many
repeat.
repeats. Yeah,
and
you
like,
repeat.
Did M
Who else?
compete or just
Em wasn't even here. No, she
document?
was here.
She was
okay,
here.
she was definitely here.
But I don't know if she,
You know what?
maybe she just
We ain't gonna cut that out, but
documented.
at the same time, people be talking trash about me because I don't know how long they've been here. But yes, no, she actually she helped me run the event last time. We definitely did not participate last
Right.
time, and this time she did participate, so it was good. Yeah, who else? Was there anybody else from the first one?
I don't think so.
Carlette.
Yeah, but
Was
she
in
didn't
the
come to
first
the
one, but
second
didn't come
one.
to the second one, damn
And I
it.
don't know if Jody competed in the first one. That would be my only question, is maybe
don't
Jody, but I don't think
so.
she did.
Yeah, yo, that's mad crazy.
But I liked, I like the aspect that you like leaned into the spectator part, because I think that part of it is maybe the most fun, to like cheer on the people that you're here with, LJ gets it. Ooh, I thought I had that one. But I think that was nice because it really does, it is like a culmination of work that we've done, especially for people who have been here, 3 months or more. So if you're thinking of the season, right? They've been here for a
Right.
season.
Yeah.
And to like do the Olympic, it's like the end of summer, right?
Yes.
Kind of. I mean,
ironically-
technically we have a few more days.
You know what's
LJ.
funny? And it's only because you said what you said, it made me think about
Yeah.
it. I was really proud of Ivy. Like, I didn't even think of until you said what you said.
Oh,
because
yeah.
if most people knew, like, if you know who Ivy is like one of those people who I feel like will be a center of the space as we continue forward, just who she is. This community loves her. She just shows up very authentically, and we love her for that.
Totally.
But her story was like, she couldn't even walk when she first came in here. Like, she had a horrible limp when she came here. And now there are pictures of her literally doing a vertical jump in terms of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's a large difference. And it was funny listening to, like, looking at that piece of it too.
Yeah.
Was looking at getting to see people's progress. And the spectator part, absolutely. I want to say I did have more fun watching others than participating.
Yeah.
Right? I did. I had more fun. Like, participating was great. Like, but it was one of those things where, like, I have an idea where I'm already at. So for me, it wasn't a large test. It was more of a test. But at the same time, doing it. And then the fellas who showed up, like, there were no slouches. Like, and the guys,
Yeah.
ladies either.
Yeah.
Like, people showed up to play, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm only talking about the dudes because I'm a dude, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, like, but at the same time, nobody came in and was like, this is just for fun. Everybody
Yeah.
was like, I'm going to really try and see what I can do. That was amazing. Like, I actually enjoyed that. That was my favorite part,
Yeah.
for sure. He's
Room
just-
full of overachievers is what I said.
Yo,
So,
fair.
just like
Fair.
looking around, like,
Fair.
everybody's like, what's the number for gold?
Yo,
Like-
there was no other numbers. No other numbers, right?
My favorite part was Jody. Jody getting up and doing the push-ups and the handstand. I
gosh.
was like,
That was a big
She did
moment.
like 11 handstand
Yeah.
push-ups
Yeah.
after she did the standing
Right.
press,
Right.
which it was one or the other, but she just did both.
I was like, all right, Jody.
Right? Like, she was, it was, I knew she was going to do it when, what was it, Ivy was trying
Ivy
to
was
attempt
trying.
You want
it.
me to show you?
And then she said, you want me to show you? And I was like, she's going to do it. Like, I already knew from that moment she was going to do it. And she waited a little bit and then right up. right? So it's actually it is very, very cool to see how people do things and carry themselves. And just, again, when I opened the space, I wanted it to be a space where we train seriously. Like, I feel like people need that. They need that space of, like, help themselves and also push themselves really, really hard. You done? You done? You, like, bump that ball? Yep, trying to climb over me. Yep, all right, I'm gonna move. So a lot of times, like, when I go to places, it's usually like a hat's throw of whether they are training really, really hard or if they're just getting by. There's usually no middle ground.
Yeah.
And you can see it in the community, right? Like, I did not respectfully want a bunch of fit people in my space. I didn't want the social media influencers in my space. I didn't want the people who work out all the time and that's what they do. No, I wanted people who are everyday people who work really, really excel at a thing. Like, so there's something about you that's amazing, but at the same time, we're all here to be a little bit better. That was what I was looking for. Go ahead, trying to step over me. Go ahead, right? And it's reflected every single time we've held one of these things.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Margie, that was my favorite moment.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, yo, there might be some knee bends, but she bending them knees. Like, she was
Thanks.
squatting. She was like,
Oh, yeah.
ah.
Yep.
Right? The primal scream. Margie's a tough cookie, man. If you don't know Margie, she's a joy.
She put in a lot of work, for sure.
Super enjoyable. There were so many good moments, right? I was laughing when I thought about it later because Garfield bringing it up. He actually messaged me like, yo, you really did just kept beating me by like 1 or 2 reps. And I was like, that's it, man. If I beat you, I'm still in great shape. Right? While Rod's over there watching us compete, and that's why he started stepping it up too.
Yeah.
At first he was kind of sandbagging as well, and then eventually he started stepping it up because he was like, okay, this is a real competition. This isn't like us playing, right? When he did the 50 push-ups, he set the tone for the push-ups. He was like, I don't know if nobody else got him. I'm like, Garf is gonna destroy that, right? And I was like, all right, I'll go for 50 because he did 50. That's pretty much our environment. Like our environment is an environment of working diligently and consistently in order to grow. So I like to say the Olympics was just a representation of what we already knew, but it was nice to see, right? Like, to me, that was definitely the factor. It was super nice to see. I love this community. I love this community more than I normally talk about. And I think the reason I don't talk about it as much is because I've come to expect it from us, right? It was kind of reflected in the training this morning as well. And I don't know, it's just excited about that piece in and of itself. The authenticity of people just working to be better together was absolutely the name for me. So, yeah, that was my take on it. It was good. It was great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Gonna be better next time.
Yeah, I like the idea of having mirroring that winter and summer Olympic, because it's just like a little check-in, and then it becomes like a community event too, which is always great.
That's exactly why we did it, and that's why we did it twice. And again, I want people to have FOMO so they show up. Right? Like, I want you to be like, man, I missed it. I got to be there next time. I want that to be a thing for the average person. So absolutely, 100%, I'm excited about that. Even more so to the point. We've got, this month is agility, right? Yes. Because we haven't been talking about how we're theming the months in here. I think a lot of people are missing that. So I want to make sure I talk about that. The months are themed. We do that because when I opened the space, I had worked with a couple different people, and I knew that the components of fitness were going to help people move and feel much better in general. So I started pursuing the components of fitness overall. There are 12 that I like to follow, and since there are 12 months in a year, we just figured we'd theme the months after that. So all of our training, everything else, is going to be geared towards that. If we do any events, we'll be thinking about those, right? Ironically, we're working currently on the ethos behind the holistic nature of what we do here. Just grown man just kicking over me. And a lot of the stuff in between. This guy, someone hold me,
Debbie.
right? Just go to every person. Look at his face. Watch the mic. He might try to pull it. So the whole thing is, as we build out this holistic part, it's funny because I think most people think I'm like an expert at the things, right? Lynette's got it. Like I don't half the time know what I'm creating or why. I'm just trusting God. So a lot of me trusting God becomes what people see. Confidence in, I have confidence. I have faith in that. I have faith in that God would never have me do something that wouldn't serve who we are in this space or in general for what we're building. So there's my confidence, right? So I don't know what this is going to be, but I do know how it's felt. And I do know how far we've come. And I do know that like you helping me build it, Sarah helping me build it, I'm already watching you guys step into the roles, and it's like kind of dope to watch, yeah? So I'm excited about this part that I knew was supposed to exist. And I'm going to say this on camera because I want this to be noted. This is important. I thought that Ashley was going to head this, right? Like for years, I waited for her to head the thing, right? What I found eventually is that I misunderstood the roles. Now, and again, I'm not even saying that like she can't. I'm saying it more like it was meant to be created by the community, not led by a specific person. And as that happened, the person would step into place instead of it being like it has to be by this person. Yeah. Right? And again, that's where you stepped up.
Yeah, you gotta like kind of like.
It's been my teaching style since the beginning, naturally or unnaturally, right? And it's felt more natural to me, and I think a lot of, to my face, I think a lot of places are leaning towards that. I think they're leaning towards creating more authentic leadership, right? So I'm just bringing my skills to the table and seeing how we can match them up. Yes, this guy, he's having too much fun. Right, but that's what we got this space for, son. Have at it.
Yeah.
So again, I wanted to go on record to say like I misunderstood that, but I'm excited for what her part will be. And
because she will be involved. It's like just like where are people positioned?
Exactly,
right?
exactly. I was like, it's gotta be you.
Yeah.
We got into a little conversation this morning about relationships, and that came up. Me and you then extended to me, Jen, and Sasha as well about relationships and like the ability to choose and things of that nature too. So again, it's interesting how as we're talking about being agile, relationships have come up even more. So I'm curious on what that's gonna mean for this. Ain't gonna be no speed dating in here. Ain't gonna be none of that. But
I mean,
we should have an event this month that is centered around the theme of the month as well. Also, we got Lean by Halloween that's coming up, so those notifications are going out today.
All right.
So I would love to lean on you two and say, on the holistic note, what are y'all thinking in terms of what you can offer? And maybe, like, what do you think about the holistic side of GID? And perhaps, where do you see it going?
Ooh.
Big
All right,
question.
I'll go first.
Talk?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Yeah.
I think where do I see it going is infinite, and I think that
LJ, catch him up.
from the beginning, it felt like GID was holistic in nature, and that's part of what makes it feel different from other spaces. It's like the community aspect is the holistic aspect. It's like community will call out when it is like a space where everyone is feeling like they're able to, have conversation in community.
Sure.
Anything's up for call out, any unalignment is up for call out, and that has holistic nature written all over it. It's like you may have it all together when it comes to like your diet and nutrition, but how you show up here may be all over the place, and that will be called out in community, like not even in a bad way, but from a place of love. It's like we're all here to see those blind spots. Like that's the only way to grow, is to be aware of new blind spots. And I was talking about that this morning, how other relationships serve in your life is just that. Like they force you to grow because they make you aware of things that you weren't outside of that relationship.
Sure. Do you think, and I'm not only asking because I know you are, again, we're all growing at all times,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like you're specifically looking at relationships for yourself right now?
Yeah, so I
Right.
think what I have to offer in the holistic side is like, I think, other than what I'm doing right now, talking about those things is like what I like to bring up, even in training. You know, with people, I'm like, all right, I've seen or I've heard, or you've talked about your relationships. Like, how are those going? You know, checking in on those.
You know what's funny? It's and again, because we're talking about it, I don't necessarily know what your role is going to be, but like I was talking this morning about how like you sell really well. Like you do have the gift of gab, but because you've been quiet so long, I don't think you know how to use it just yet in the way you want to, right? Like you know how to use it. You know what I'm saying? You definitely, yeah, he do be like making me like, you definitely know how to use it, right? But like in a way that feels right to you is what I'm talking about now. Like I've used and abused my gifts. And that's when I was more of a womanizer, more of a like a person taking advantage of people. But when I learned that my gifts were for me, which I think is what a lot of people do feel, it changed. So Em pointed this out to me the other day because we were talking about it. She was like, "Really, you really do just." I've said this, but knowing it was seen made it feel different. It was like I just show up authentically as I can, right? And that like telling my truth, speaking on myself, not necessarily trying to create lofty idealism, but just simply sharing who I am, and then saying that more people need a space that we've created. Because when I show up authentically, I show up in the light of authenticity. Doing so doesn't leave a lot of room for darkness. So as you were talking about a minute ago, it comes to light. I guess what I wanted to ask you about that is, do you feel like your relationships you've fostered to this point, do they serve your voice changing, or do they take away from your ability to be authentic?
I think, yeah, every relationship that I've had has served in that seeing the blind spots. And I think there's like resignation and like, hey, you're not using your voice. Hey, you're not using your voice. Like every message boiling down to that.
Going back to it, but right, and I understand that. I'm asking the direct question.
Yeah.
Jeez, the direct question on, again, do you like the relationships you have? I'm not saying the lessons you learn.
Yeah.
I'm saying the lessons that you are going like that, or excuse me, I'm not saying the lessons you learned. I'm saying the things that they're teaching you. Like, do you feel like the relationships are reflective of who you are currently or who you want to be? That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
Right? So like if you look at, like for instance, when I looked at the people before this little man existed, the reason I had to change my environment was because the people who were around me were people who were doing things that weren't right, were people who were speaking on being lazy and not doing the things like, this is why most people end up losing people along the way, because as you try to grow,
I see.
there's no, you
Yeah.
can't, certain relationships
In the
will not go
environment.
with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I feel like, I feel like that's why this was my community, because it fits my speed.
Sure.
Like, I see everyone else growing, and
Fair.
that spurs me like to feel confidence in the fact that like I'm not gonna be like leaving people behind, you know, in my growth.
Okay.
And
Are you saying and referring to as you? So part of the reason you may bring people in here is because as you get to grow, they also get the same opportunity. Okay, fair. So
I know you don't.
when it comes to those close relationships, right? Like I remember for me a long time ago, I would spend hours and hours talking to an individual just because I was like, no, you got to understand this point. Let me explain it 7 different times. But I also realized my time was finite, right? So like I can't care for him and be present if I'm fostering a person who's not getting the message, let's say on the first 2 times. So I had to learn how to put a limit on how I taught. So that way, instead of saying it 8 different ways, if you don't get it in the 3 that I'm presenting, we can go back to it, but that's all I can afford right now. I don't have the time to give you 8 because he needs my attention, right? Like as an example. Yes. again, we're spending this hour talking, which is our time to kind of break and collaborate and everything else, and notice he's present, right? Like I have him the entire day. So like, let's say someone wanted to go to lunch that I didn't necessarily think would be good energy for my son. I can't even spend time with that person anymore. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not rude. It's just, I know I can't. I have my son, right? But they may take it as being rude. Yes. So it becomes a thing where like, I become curious about, I'm asking you maybe more as a, how your voice develops, right? I'm grateful that you're taking the lessons either way, whether it's positive or negative.
Yeah.
You're taking the lesson and then putting it towards who you want to be,
Yeah.
which is great. But I'm saying, this is how I looked at my circle. When I look at my circle, what do I see? Who's in my circle? And basically who you spend your time with is your circle. Yes? So based on your circle, do you feel like that's where you're gonna go where you wanna go based on said circle?
Yeah.
Okay. That was my question. That was more what I was trying to say with everything else.
All right.
Right? Because I had to change mine. Like I had no choice, right? To become, I love y'all, right? But if I don't spend time around someone helping me be better as a man, I'm gonna miss it. So I have to spend time with men better than me to do that. And what I mean, like one man might be successful financially, right? That attribute is something I need to spend time around so I can figure out for me what that looks like. Like Garth's a great father in spite of the obstacles, right? So spending time with Garth helps me to stand firm on this happening, right? Like I hate having him just roam around. Like it drives me kind of nuts, but at the same time, I feel good about it, right? And a lot of it, and a reason I'm getting used to it, right? So having those people in my life with the attributes that I desire for myself allows for me to be closer to who I want to be. So that's what when I think of my circle, that's what I mean. Like if you look at a person, what do they give you based on who they are? Because that's authentic leadership. That makes you who you want to be. Fair? Like again, if let's say you got 3 people, who are they? What do they give you? I'm not asking you to name them. That's just how I think about it, right? Like in general, I got about 5. Amy's one of them, right? Amy's one of them. M's one of them. James is one of them. Garth is one of them. You get what I'm saying? And these are people that I am consistently looking at what they do well and hoping to make that skill my own. Yes. So that's why I ask. Not who we're helping. Who are we relying on? Who's helping us be better? Helping is different. Who's helping you be better based on their example? No words, example, right? And then that manifests to, let's say, the next circle, which may be your, hey, which manifests in your next circle, which is more your, let's call them associates for the sake of conversation. People you are helping, people you are, having to spend time with or talk to. But your inner circle, they define you, essentially, because they're who you spend your time with. So I guess that's why I ask, because I thought about it, like, deeply when I even opened this space. Like, you met Fred. Both of you have met Fred. We've been friends for 20 years. That's the homie, but he's not in my inner circle. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a very good friend of mine, but he's not in my inner circle. As far as would I rely and depend on him for specific things, yes, we've been friends for years. But inner circle wise, he's not in my circle. Right? And the reason being is because, again, what I'm looking to do, we don't match in that regard. I'm sure maybe eventually, but at right now, no. You know who I'm leaning on real hard? Mr. Brown. That's my guy right now. Because I want to be what he does, like, effortlessly, I want to do well. So that's why I lean on being more organized, right? Watching Amy's meticulous nature. Again, there's a reason I want to lean on these things. I want those for myself. He needs me to be that guy so he can do what he do. Yes? So, like, I want that skill. So my kids did help me, but at the same time, I knew it was my circle. That's what made me ask. I know it was a deep lesson for, like, such a small moment, but that is how I look at it. So again, you don't have to answer unless you want to.
Yeah, that's like a writing prompt. I'm gonna go home and write that. I'm like, I need to write this down too. I should think about this.
That's something I had to think about very deeply because coming from where I came from, I've got a lot of good folk around me, but at the same time, at the same time, I wanted to make sure that those good people weren't just good people. They were good people for me and what I wanted to be to him and everything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, it became my thought process real quick. Right? And it was Lauren. Lauren started that for me. It wasn't LJ, obviously.
Right.
If it was LJ, nothing would
Right, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Lauren when Lauren started looking at me as like the person she looked up to, I started thinking about how I was living, and that's what started the process. And I remember there was this moment where people started not being able to live their lives anymore, jail, death, other stuff. And that made me go, okay, what am I doing? And again, if I want to be here for her, what do I need, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking that, because I know you're having a transitional time, becoming not becoming, but stepping into your fatherhood, being a father even more. And that, good sir, is always like it's like the crux of being a man, because it gets rough, right? So I asked because of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I went mad deep with that for no reason. Amy, you have
Let's move on.
Unless you wanted to answer.
Listen, that's when you got to send me the night before and be like, yo,
I didn't even know I was gonna
we've got
ask.
Coach's Corner tomorrow.
Let me drop this bar on you. Write a verse. I'll see you in the verses tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like
Prep
that
work.
That's one that needs some prep work.
Fair.
Definitely.
Maybe we can talk about it next time, like in more detail. But I definitely thought about it as we were talking.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a deep question.
Yeah, I want to write that down too. So I think that's good
Next
work.
Coach's Corner.
Yeah.
Stay tuned
For the answers.
for part 2. This is the first Coach's Corner that has a part 2.
We did a whole one and then we did a half. Like
right.
That's crazy. But fair. What you got, Avery?
As far as where I see myself fitting in with the holistic part of this, I feel like I don't know yet. Yeah, LJ's not cool with that. He like, nah.
That's bullshit. That's what it sounded like.
I think working with you and what we've been reading and thinking about how to develop, a more in-depth way for people who are here to like look at another piece of healing, really. I think the healing that comes up while we're here, we're using our bodies, like especially if people have experienced trauma, like that's probably going to bring some stuff up.
Oh, yeah.
We did, what was it, 2 weeks ago, we were doing the holds for like 8 rounds, and like round 6, I was like ready to like, my body was like, I think you both saw it too, and I was like, I can hold these down, right? Because I'm about ready to like cry, because I'm like activating my nervous system is like, something's wrong, right? I got to that point. And we talked a little bit more about it, because I think for me it was like, as a kid, like I was not a kid who asked for help. I learned that there wasn't a lot of space for that, so I just did shit. And it needed to get done. So whatever that looked like, it could look like struggling. It could look like break down crying to be like, I don't know how I'm going to do this thing that probably I shouldn't be doing anyway, but I am. And, so I think that piece of it where it's like, I have pushed my body, and maybe that's where that like point where I was like, but I think it doesn't have to be that extreme for it to come up. I think our patterns and our habits, I know that they're developed around,
Absolutely.
how like we came to be at this time in our life. So you might have some faulty wiring. You might have some skills that aren't serving you anymore that really did a lot for you at one point, but don't now. And you can't, like you say, you can't do that in a training session, but although it might come up. And can you address that in a check-in? That's way too much for a check-in, right? Because you're not here to check. You're here to check, but you're not here to deep dive.
Yeah.
And I
I'm
think
here
that's
to check.
where,
I'm not here to check.
Right. Like it's connected, and there's not enough time and space realistically, because that's a lot. It's draining too, right? Like doing all of those things, especially if you're not intending to. Like somebody's having a bad day, oh, all of a sudden, oh boy,
Yeah,
you know?
right. Yes.
So,
Yes.
and those things come up, but so I feel like as we develop, I think I need to sit and write about this. Like, where do I see myself in those pieces? Because I am really drawn to this work. I'm really drawn to healing. I'm really drawn to like how brains work and how we can help them work better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if I'm bad at that, seeing myself in the picture.
It's funny. It's funny because
So-
I want to say, to a degree, right? Like, no, he's just gonna
Yeah,
toss it.
we
at
can
you.
play that
All
game
right.
later.
All right. Now you're gonna slide down. All right. Nah. He said, threw it at you. All right, this dude is funny. And down he goes. All right. So a lot of again, I think it's important, right? Because we do train specifically, and I think this does train your fight or flight for your body, and it also helps you push your threshold. Most people, when they first come in, they'll hear me say things like, "We train the central nervous system," and a lot of people don't really realize what that means. So how your fight or flight responds in a situation is actually based on your central nervous system, how you've primed it, what you've done. That's why it was interesting when you described it as wiring, right? Because there's a lot of faulty wiring where the house still turns the lights on,
Oh, totally.
right? But that doesn't mean that the wiring is correct for, let's say, increasing your
Right.
capacity and turning on. Let's say you want to build a room and you got to put lights in that room. Well, now your faulty wiring doesn't give enough power to do so. Like the panel's big enough,
Right.
But the wiring is no good for expanding, right? So you do have to look at what your wiring is, and then you have to and then you have to trace it back to figure out where the fault is,
Yeah.
where the thing is wrong, in order to actually work on fixing it. Then you have to literally, let's say you're not really an electrician, you have to learn that skill of being an electrician to fix that wiring.
Right.
Right? So it was when you said that, I was like, yeah, that's like a fire analogy for, it's like building a house and being like learning to be an electrician versus being, let's say, someone who knows that the lights turn on and off and I know how to change a switch. Changing a switch sounds great until you need to put more lights in. Now all of a sudden you got to learn to be an electrician, and that is different. But this is one of those interesting concepts in general. In this space, I think because we train the CNS, I want to say that a large part of how we do that and why we do that has become a lot of people's push either forward or out. Never out, never like still, because there's a push there.
Yeah.
So either you get better, or most people will end up just not. They'll be like, it's not for me, right? So it is funny, like how exciting. I laugh when like people tell me the cute stories about like, yeah, man, we just go after it in training. I'd be like, have you never done that before? Like you worked out just to be the same. You worked out because it was status quo. You worked out because it was the thing where you were like, I'm supposed to do that.
I think that part.
Yeah.
I think there is a lot of spreading the message where I think it's a misconception of like, just get up and move, you know, which is where it starts, you know, like that's the very beginning of your journey. But if you've been getting up and moving for a year, like now, like let's get up and move with more intention, you know, and like keep increasing your threshold, because just getting up and doing the same thing, you know, every day is not really fun.
Agreed.
And
Not
the
if
point-
it feels like obligation.
Yeah, if it's just like, oh, I gotta work out today, and I just like get up and move a little bit and then sit back down. If you don't feel better, maybe you didn't push hard enough. I tell this story and I relate it to humans a lot. It's like, we are animals, you know? And like, I feel like your body is very much an animal. Like my dog, when I had my dog, it was like a terror. I think I told this story once on a Coach's Corner, but he was a terror and like ripped up my left shoe on every pair of shoes and left the right one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I was like, you've never. Then
Yeah.
you started saying it, I was like,
Yeah, but like once I started running him like hard, 3 miles a day, Like,
Yeah, he just had excess energy.
yeah, and then he was the best boy. You know, he would just like listen and like be attentive and like follow instruction. It was ridiculously different from where he was before. And then I realized my body kind of works the same way.
Do you think maybe it was a representation of your energy, not the dog's?
It might have been, but like I also think a lot of dogs are a representation of like how.
Yeah, I think they're reflective.
Yeah, how a lot of men
absolutely.
like 24-hour cycle, like the testosterone build. It's like that same feeling of like if I get this energy out physically, then I can focus my mind.
Fair.
You know, and I think that's what I'm
Well said.
talking about there.
Well said. Yeah, ironically, that. Yeah, like, I laugh all the time because my wife is always talking about how much of a terror this little dude is, like how much energy he has. Again, years ago, this would have been called terror. This would have been, he never sits still. Ironically, that is not the case this time, which is growth. She's talking about how much energy he has, right? How difficult it is to keep up with him, right? That's the conversation now. And a lot of that, like, again, you see as he sits with me, he's just chilling. Now, he's moving around, but like outside of him hurting himself, I'm not worried about him, right? Like, I'm like, as long as he's okay, it's okay. So tie that back to what you're talking about and that space. It's like a lot of people have never, they status quo it. They status quo it, and then they're like, oh, I'm doing the thing, so that's enough. I love, personally, when we do something and you have a question, and I'm not talking about the training, like you ask yourself an internal question. That's why the check-ins exist in the first place. Because I know when you push yourself to a certain point, you question things. How you question and what you fall back on is a different conversation, right? But you definitely question things. As an example, can I do this? Maybe you grew a little bit, am I even satisfied with that level of growth? That's why I'm gonna use Christina as an example, right? We have seen Christina. Christina's been coming here for quite some time, but she came to classes a lot. And the more I learn about CMAC, the more I realize I really, really like her. But it's so interesting watching her do things. There's a place where you can tell, and I don't know how far or deep it goes, but you can tell where she has been told it's not okay, even when it was. And maybe the people around her were saying it wasn't. Like, don't do that. Or you have too many questions. Like, stuff like that. Right, I see it show up when she wants to question me, and like at the beginning, she wanted to question me, was like, "I'm sorry, I don't mind questions. I like questions." And now we have like a whole banter back and forth, and she messes with me about it, and I mess with her about it, and it has helped us build a relationship. She's so talkative in class now, I have to literally tell her to stop talking. Right, like it went from she would barely speak to now she is like, I'm me, and I want everyone to see. But that's what happens when you push yourself, so you get to see who you are, right?
And that builds confidence.
Yeah. How many times look, we gonna talk about it a little bit. When she dislocated her elbow, right? She was so scared, right? Like she was fearful, and I mean rightfully so. That's a scary thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, hey, calm down. Okay, move it. Pop right back in, right? And she said, oh my, you could see on her face, she didn't even realize that her body was capable of giving back to itself like that, right? It's those moments for me are exactly why I train people as hard as I do, right? Outside of the fact, like general trainer stuff, I can't control what you eat, but I can control how much I kick your ass, right? Like you won't change based on this training, even if you don't change your diet. That was like a thing for me for a long time because I wanted to facilitate change. That's why I went after the CNS. Again, most people who work out don't change their diet because they don't see any progress. So if you start seeing progress and you then want to see it manifest how you like change, you're gonna have to do something different. I feel like that is why I do what I do the way I do it. So someone like Christina, I could see the lack of confidence in the movement, and I can see the difference now is everything to me as a coach. I didn't get into coaching to show everybody how awesome I was. I got into coaching to help people change, right? So if we're looking at it that way, that's the win, ain't it? Like that's the win, and that's the thing I want to expand on. That is the holistic piece, in my opinion. That's what it is. I agree when Amy said we don't have time in check-ins to do the big holistic checks. But what I would like to do is systemically solve those checks. If we're creating the space where the questions come up and there's enough people who understand what we're doing, I don't even got to answer the question anymore. You notice half the time when people go talking, like Sarah was teaching Jada and them in the corner how to go up. Normally, I would be like, I don't like that because I'm teaching, number one, and number two, way more important, is you may do it wrong and they could hurt themselves, and that becomes that is a fear when people aren't knowledgeable. But it's so funny because the groups we train with, I feel like they got it. So there's certain people I like, if you talk, you notice I'll just be like this. I'm like, took me a minute to get there, but now that I'm there, I feel really good about it.
I think it also took everyone else a minute to get there, because it's like, you may be knowledgeable, but the confidence around it, like just using it enough to then be like, oh yeah, for sure, like I know how to do this thing. We've done it so many times. We've talked it through so many times. Like, let me show you how to do this.
That is I mean, I think that is, again, that's the training that I think most people aren't paying attention to either. You notice sometimes I write things down, sometimes I don't, right? A lot of people don't realize I'm training your ability to memorize, right? Sometimes we'll do an exercise and you're responding to my voice. That's responding to external stimuli. That is part of being an athlete. Like, I try to make sure that the lessons match what we're experiencing, and that's why I themed the months in the first place. And again, if we're gonna grow for real, I think people need to understand that who you came in here because of who you want to be, not because you like me, right? That might have been why you chose this space particularly, but you showed up for change. Whenever someone misses the fact that they show up for change, and again, this is no disrespect, you can see it when they're in what they do, right? C-Mac has purposely moved. I watched her go from classes only to showing up for the, like, let's say bars and bells. Like, she was only coming to dance class. She went from dance to step. She went from step to bars and bells. And now she's joined us in training. Like, I remember she came in one day and she was like, what's training like? Right? Just, that was the question, right? It wasn't some big lofty thing. She was like, how hard is it? And I was like, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's pretty tough. I was like, but we have a good time. And then she said, sign me up. That, again, I know you're here for something when you start talking like that.
I also love the peer pressure kind of into like health. Just in fact, like, if all your friends start doing something and they start changing and they're like getting stronger and you're just like, wait a minute.
That's what happened to Alyssa.
That's true.
Yeah.
That was the pipeline. Like, I started and I was like, yo, C, there's this sweet dance class you probably like. Then C came. And then, then Alyssa started coming to step. Right? And now Alyssa's at training.
She fought it for a minute. She was like, I haven't trained. I'm good. Right? And then, like, she saw you guys, like, the events we were doing, the little things we were doing together, like this type of stuff. She was like, I want to be part of that. Right? There is some FOMO involved, for real.
But no, I think you guys are great at that, actually.
I mean, I actually tried not
I get FOMO. I don't want to miss it.
I love it.
It's like, man, you should have been there.
People be so upset. People be like, wait, when did this happen?
I'm like,
are you guys gonna do this again? Please tell me you're gonna do it again.
I missed it forever.
People so upset.
But it's because it's funny. It's because we do have a tight knit community, which I'm grateful for. But I think a lot of it actually has to do with the fact that you actually miss something. You miss something. Like there's an actual feeling of missing something when you come in.
The worst is when you come back in here. We were talking about this. You come back in here after like taking a week off, so you were sick. And then everyone's unlocked a new skill, and you're just like, wait a minute. When did we start doing backflips?
Yeah.
I didn't see anything on social media about backflips.
Because we hide it all. Right? The progress in here is so incremental and consistent that most people level up and they don't even know they leveled up. That's my favorite part. That is one of my favorite parts to look at it that way.
That's what you were just speaking on that I actually like to see. Is like, I think I see it often, like the mental switch or like the energy someone's putting out when they're like coming here and they're just like, I know I need this, and then it switches to like, I don't even know what it switches to. It's like, it's a different thing. It's like, all right.
plug in.
Yeah, like, all right, I'm here and I'm about to push. Like, I'm about to push past.
okay.
It's like, I know I
was
need
kinda
this.
seeing, like, where is he
You
going?
just drop the no, and you're like, I need this.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a very interesting, 100%. Great example comes to mind is Sasha. She comes to
Yeah.
mind for me. Kind of.
Yeah.
Very much so Sasha though. Like Sasha was like, I just came in here to move and feel better. And then she got challenged once or twice, and then she saw how strong she really was, and now she's showing up like that regularly, and with such grace. It's not even like you have to change who you are to be more of who you are. You get what I'm saying? Like I think that's a big lesson a lot of people are learning. You can be strong as hell and still be soft, or maybe you're very, very rigid. You can be flexible, right?
I think
strength doesn't only look like rigidity.
And I
You
think
know what I'm
strength is an expression of self. So it's like,
Yeah.
I think you're not always expressing like that, you know, like, but we get to see these moments of like how strong people are in here. And that's what's beautiful. It's like, it's not changing who you are. It's like showing more of who you are.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
and you can't always express strength like that. That would be wild.
Yeah, I like, you know why I decided to participate in the Olympics this time is because I don't think a lot of people really understand. Like, most people don't see me train, right? Unless you come to 6 o'clock and I'm already in here and we're doing, and sometimes even then we're done by the time
you
people
catch
come in.
you catch the tail
So
end.
you're
Right.
catching you're catching like the very last exercise. You didn't see me
You're just smelling the work.
go up. Yeah, you didn't see me like challenge myself, right? It was just like when we were going. I think people like it happened at least 3 times where I would do something and everyone kind of stopped and watched. And first of all, I hate being the center of attention. I really do, right? I truly dislike it. That's why I understand Amy's thing. Secondly, the important part was I stopped caring who was watching, and I started focusing on what I was giving. So I said it like Garth heard me say it. He was like, "Didn't you work out before everybody got here?" I was like, "Yeah." So I don't know if I'm gonna get this 30, right? Like John said it. Other people have said it. They'll say things like, "Yo, just when I think I ain't got much to give, I see you do it, and then I go, I can do more." Right? So like I said 30 and I busted out 50.
51?
51. Oh yeah, to beat Garth. That's
Yeah.
right. It was always about beating Garth.
Yeah,
Whole time it was about beating Garth. Right? But there was a reason I chose that. See, most people wouldn't even know what that reason was. I didn't choose to necessarily beat Garth.
Yeah.
I chose to show Garth that he's
challenge
capable
him.
of more, right? Because I know he's capable of more and he wants more. So I showed up to show more. Like Ross showed up for community, but then he found more brotherhood. And he's starting to realize that. And he's like, I'm not sure if I want to do it or not, but I'm gonna keep showing up anyway. Right? And that's the difference between who's in my inner circle and who's not. Right? Like, as an example, Garth is in my inner circle because like when he saw I showed up that way, he pushed harder and he made it look effortless. Like the jump, did you see the jump? He looks like he's floating.
He's Iron
Both
Man.
hands
He's like,
down. Like I'm like, yo, this dude didn't even
was
put his
like-
hands up there. Right? Like that's
Right.
how crazy that jump, and he's high off the ground. Right? There's something to be said about learning about yourself and then taking what you think you know and then going for more, because you got more in you. Like most people really do have more than they're giving, right? If you would have asked me if I could do this and hold him, I'd have been like, nah, there's too much chaos. I don't have the capacity for that. But I think people even seeing me do stuff like this is showing people like, man, you're capable of more. So I'm just living authentic as possible. Listen, our babysitter dropped out. I got the kid. Like that's what this is. This isn't like I planned this on a Monday. Like it's not like that, right? I think that's important for people to see. So even me doing the 50, I did the 50 because I knew the community wanted me to do the 50. I didn't do the 50 because I wanted to do the 50. I thought I was done at 30. You heard me say it, right? I was like, I'm not even gonna lie to you. So in aspect, yes, you can push yourself, but do you even know what it's like to truly push yourself? Number one. And number two, and way more important, community gives you the push you
That
need in
extra
those
push.
moments. Yes, that's what I like. I swear to you, like most people think I'm joking. I didn't think I had more than 30. my shoulders and chest are shot. That's what I thought. I woke up today, I was fine. My back hurts a little, like my back's sore, but my chest is fine. That tells you how much work I've been putting in when no one's watching.
And you want to know what's crazy? Is I realized that I've been ostentatious most of my life. Kind of from the other end. You're like, I don't like being the center of attention. I don't want to be out there.
No.
But I do also understand that what I'm giving in being the center of attention and why people are watching me is actually giving me that extra push, right? And then I'm like, I'm coming from the other end where I'm realizing I don't really want all eyes on me. But the eyes that I do want on me, I want on me for the same reason. It's like Goku coming up with the spirit bomb, you know? It's like, I care so much about the people on this planet that I want your energy.
So I can save us all.
Yeah. It's like that type
Fair.
of stuff.
Fair. That's a good tie.
Yeah.
Well said. So you want to be Son Goku, I want to be Wukong. That's our dad. Like, that's literally, that's the difference. Like,
fair.
because you know that's the journey of a monk, right?
Yeah.
Journey to the West is the journey of an actual monk, which they then turned into a fable,
Yeah.
which is Son Wukong. Like, it's a whole interesting tie, right? And yeah, this community is special. Like, if somebody would have asked me before, I just spoke to Amy this morning and I said, I've watched my leaders ostracize themselves from their communities by just helping, right? Like, people start viewing you as more than you are. They start putting you on a pedestal. You'll hear, that's my like normal message. Don't put me on no pedestal. I'm human. The only reason it looks extraordinary to you is because I did the ordinary extra times. Like I can do more push-ups because I kept doing push-ups. Amy is like byproduct of that for all the women in here, right?
How many push-ups you do? Hold on.
Yeah, yeah.
How many push-ups was it?
32, I think.
32 push-ups?
32.
With
Yeah.
no
Solid.
knees down.
No, that's true. No knees down. I
Solid.
don't
No
do
knees
push-ups
down.
with knees down.
With
And
no knees down. Yo, she got a lot of fellas beat. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Like that's
Facts. She
that
got
is
me beat.
Crazy. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, she was up there with us. There was a couple times like we were talking on the side, and she would say, "I was going for the men's number." I was like, "That's fair. That's fair. You should do more of that." Like that's actually how you work it, right? So like,
Yeah.
and again, those moments, like that's why I started opening up the 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock slot again. I could train from home. I don't need the push to train at all because it's for my mental clarity and things of that nature. But there are days where the push is absolutely paramount to my growth. So I'm trying to, you taught me, you and my friend who will remain unnamed, taught me that even though I was doing the thing, I wasn't giving what I was supposed to give. So those moments in community became how I show up again. That's why if somebody asks me, it's like, yeah, I train regardless, right? They're like, John's like, now John's back in here. He's like, man, you always make me feel like I got more to give. And that's not even what I'm trying to do. I'm just, again, this little dude
That's the message he's receiving.
needs me to be the man. Like, and I mean that in the most like authentic way possible. He needs me to be, the rock, the shelter, the soft space. He needs me to ebb and flow to be exactly what he needs. To create that is to harden myself enough to sit still and be soft. You get what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't tie that damn thing, right? So I was just saying it this morning. I said a lot of people would look at me from first glance and they would call how I am toxic, but that's because of the definition of what a man is supposed to be in our current society is jacked up, right? It's not toxic to not want to talk about all of your feelings. It's not toxic to speak truth authentically to a point where you may hurt someone's feelings. These things aren't toxic, right? If anything, it's toxic to talk too much. It's toxic to a person to sit and pretend that you understand all of their emotions and feelings when you in fact don't. Their experience is unique and they have something to offer the world inside of it, and you will never understand what that is. So it's actually toxic to their purpose to say, I understand that. No, I completely understand that. You don't. There are people who have never experienced what that person's experienced. It's a gift. Now, how they use it is up to them. But again, that's the thing, right? So it's interesting to me to watch, because if you watch me, like, again, I love bringing up that moment I was running with M, because she was like, how do I help? How do I help? I said, I don't need help. right? And I was like, I'm trying to finish, right? And you know, through some grunting and some locking in my mind, I figured I found it, right? And when I found it, man, I couldn't lose it. Like it was there till I finished. And then when I finished, man, like I was like, I'm done. I laid on the floor. I was done, right? There's pieces to us. We all got that switch. I don't think most people have even flicked it before. You get what I'm saying? I've had to flick it throughout my life. Yeah, I've had to flick it throughout my life. But in this new season, again, this is why it's more of a dimmer, which we talked about in one of the previous ones. Learning to be on and off at the same time is what's going to help people see that light and dark